Harper, 1420 45th Street. Although I'm a land use attorney, I want to make it clear I do not represent the applicant or anyone else. I wanted to speak about one thing that you're doing that I think is extremely dangerous and wholly unprecedented, is to my knowledge, and that is, for the first time, Emeryville has decided to regulate not the what about a building, but the who. In the condition that only Granite Expo may be the occupant of this building, you're getting into a situation where if the business changes form or if the building is sold, it's an extremely complex situation. A use permit should be something that a planning commission sets out and says, we are controlling the what about this building. You may do this much warehouse, you may do this much office, you have this many parking spaces. This is what you have, because those rights travel with the building and travel with the property. If you put in a condition of a who, I don't know how you're supposed to enforce that. I think it may be proper for the city to be noticed if there is a lessee, because then the city can say, let's make sure that we're still doing a warehouse use there. Let's make sure something. That's an enforcement issue. But to place a condition of approval on a building such that only a particular who may take advantage of that use, to me as a land use attorney, is unprecedented, and you're just asking for trouble. So I strongly suggest that you really look at that and decide for yourself if that is an absolute requirement, because I don't know where. I mean, Mr. Lee, to my knowledge, is the very first person that this has ever been put to. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak to this item? Seeing no one else, we'll close the public hearing.
Chair Martin?
Yes.
If I could just respond to that. I'm not an attorney, so Carol might want to jump in here, but the limiting this to Granite Expo is because of the parking variance. And it's not unprecedented. We did the same thing with Pixar when they moved into the head over heels space at the Emeryville Business Center. You may recall they got a parking variance also, and that parking variance is specific to Pixar's occupancy of that space, and it says that in the conditions.
Comments, questions? Before a motion.
Well, I don't know. I guess that would that just tie in with the language, the proposed retail office space and warehouse shall be for the exclusive use of Granite Expo. So as it's proposed here, it's for their exclusive use. If it changes,
I would presume if someone else wanted to lease it, they'd have to come back and get permission.
Right. I mean, that's basically what the second sentence says. If
Certainly, it's not a prohibition. It says they need an amendment to
Right.
the use permit. And I think in terms of the parking variance, certainly part of the reason with the variance is because the unique nature of this business. They're subject to the warehouse parking limit, but they're not a traditional warehouse where they have, 150 employees coming in, that type of thing on a daily basis, like Sherwin-Williams would. And the same with Pixar, because they had the parking lot across the street and a parking management plan for their employees. So you could grant them a variance, but not necessarily another office user who wouldn't have the same rights. So
I would also point out that regardless of whether you put Granite Expo's name on this or not, what's referenced in the conditions of approval is this set of plans. And another user could come in conceivably and use this building, but it's not too likely that they're going to want to have the exact same improvements that Granite Expo has. They're probably going to come in with their own plans, which you would then have to approve.
Yeah, I think at the study session, one of my concerns, and I think some of the other commissioner concerns, was what's going to happen with the existing office space on Hollis, and how does that relate to this particular use. So I think it's important to actually limit, especially given that we're looking at a parking variance that limits specific use in this particular application. I think it makes sense. It forces the user back to staff or the commission if in fact they want to do something more. So in this case, I think it makes sense. Did anyone have any comments or questions about the design?
I do.